Shop the new arrivals by Ashley Lux. For practical prices, meet premium style. With plush boucle upholstery, warm French covers, and high-quality leather, made for the spaces you will be needed. Shop Ashley Lux in-store and anywhere.
Everything from clothing and shoes, handbags, home decor, housewares, and more. You never know what you're going to find, but you'll always find something. Last year, Goodwill served thousands of youth and adults in southern Arizona with jobs, training, and education. With Goodwill, it's so easy to make a difference. Find us.
Right. What up, everyone? We're going to see how many people show up for Sunday. As I have said before, we're kind of testing out when people will want to come chat. As I have said before, we're kind of testing out when people will want to come chat. I got myself echoing at the moment, my bad. And then after like a couple first 2 weeks of testing, when people are going to come in and whatnot, we will then be able to have a schedule. Make it a little easier to coordinate. Haven't decided if I'm going to like filter out the background or not. Sometimes I like it better when it's just not filtered out, or blurred, I should say, when it's not blurred and then other times I like it when it's blurred. So it's just a weird one. Hey, what's up, man? Look, I couldn't give you a schedule, just maybe. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing. Excuse me. That's kind of what I'm doing. It's just like, just a test, jump on, see what happens, see who wants to chat. I just like chatting with people as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be like 30 or 40 people in here every time. I genuinely can't talk today. Like just having these kind of conversations with people, as long as they can be honest as possible. All right, that's kind of how I go about it. I get like I did like one of our callers from last week. I hope she calls back, Ruby. She seems so sweet. So obviously I remember her, right? So it's just like I would love for that person to call back just to have like a deeper conversation into how they think, right? I know a lot of these channels like to just bash on people or make them look foolish. I'm not saying that's what they always do, but certain times it just turns into that, as to where, since I don't think this way as much as I used to, it's interesting to talk to people that still feel that way, because I feel like it's possible that I can talk like them and they will hear me better. So I actually don't like to bash anyone's beliefs. I just like to question them very hard, right? And make them give me answers as well. I think that is the only way to truly help change someone's mind. Yeah, I listen to Alex O'Connor, Dan McClellan as well. I mean, if you're in this kind of space, who doesn't, right? I used to watch a lot of Alex, not as much anymore, but that's not for really any particular reason, because we've done a couple reaction videos to some stuff he said. So, and then Dan McClellan, he's kind of my go-to when I'm driving home from work or something, is when you just want somebody that just gives you some facts, right? I feel like that's a good person to go to. I think that makes sense. But yeah, the lady Ruby that we were speaking to, I believe it was our last call. I think it was our last call from what was that, Friday? Yeah, from Friday. She was she was a sweet person. She had an interesting way of looking at things, but which I think I have a video featuring her on it coming out, because part of what she was saying, I used to believe that, right? It was one of the only ways, and I still mention it every once in a while. It was the only way I could reconcile still believing in like a Christian God and how the world works in reality. So it was like, oh crap, we're already at the end, right? Heaven and hell it's like it's already here. And I remember for a brief time kind of toying with that thought, and yeah, it's interesting, man. Like toying with that thought and then hearing someone else say it, like that's what makes it really interesting. Like hearing someone else say what you used to think a little bit, and then now you're pretty much past that point, but you hear someone else say it. It's kind of Kind of cool, man. Well, how I view these kind of things is you aren't changing anyone's mind. They are doing it themselves. The only thing you're doing is kind of just opening doors slightly for them, and then they're the ones that have to continue and push through the door. If you're ever speaking to someone to actually convince them, you're probably not going to be successful because you need them to go home and think about what you said. You don't need to beat them in that moment in time. You want them to, you want it to attach to them, and it's something that they're thinking about through their whole day. In a way, it can ruin somebody's day. I wouldn't try to use it in that way, but if you think about it in that way, you can kind of understand what I'm saying is you want it to attach to them. Whatever you're saying, you want them to think. And for the most part, people aren't going to remember your exact words, but if you can hit some heartstring of theirs, you possibly can get them to think a little bit. Yeah, Buck, okay. I mean, I think that would be just a very honest comment. And to me, those people, like what you just said, right? You can be a believer and still be rational about your belief, right? So you can now join the community as a whole. So it's not necessarily that we need to get rid of people that believe. We just, everybody needs to be helping each other just work together. And we have to find things that are alike, right? And the best way to find those things is just to use provable things that I can actually show you in reality why it works, right? So that's like you would be welcome in any community that I would build up, even if you believed in, I don't know, pink fluffy unicorns, right? I don't care about that. I just care that you probably can't prove that to me. So when me and you get together and start building something, that we're going to leave that out of it, right? That's kind of how I look at it. Like we're going to leave that out. And you can still believe it, but when we're building our house, you don't get to invoke fluffy dragons. Yeah. They have a cardboard box on their heads with Jesus written all over the inside. So all they see is Jesus. They can't. Yeah, that's what's tough, man. And there's two ways to go about this, right? And I believe you need all of them because different things reach different people. So the way I go about it might not reach everyone, but we have other people doing that, right? There's other people that are doing like the brute force, make you cry type of thing. And, you have other groups doing it in, more of the logical way, right? So it's just like logical guys that like to spit the philosophical things, right? You have that group, and everybody's goal is still to do the same thing, which is just to create a place where we are all as safe as possible and all are being as kind as possible to each other, right? Because in reality, that's kind of what everybody wants. It's just reconciling with the fact that the world is just freaking horrible and there's a lot of horror to it. So a lot of people fear that so much that they would just rather put their head in the sand, as it, or like you just said, put a box over their heads, right? And then they write in that box everything they want to see, right? Sure, but there's also the respect thing. Is it's weird, right? Because you can have a believer that says respect my beliefs, but they're also harming other people. So at that point, you have now broken our social contract again. So then, I don't have to respect your beliefs if that's how you're going to use them, because the whole social contract is us trying to help each other, right? So if your beliefs are now dipping into there a little bit, once again, that's why I was saying that this is such a fragile thing, and we're going to need to attack it in different ways, right? That's weird. I don't know why that's like the chat just go. I think I got like some number on it or something that I shouldn't. Let me see. Like I said, wasn't too sure how today will be. We'll just go with it, man. So if we end up here for 30 minutes and I'm chatting by myself, it's all good. I've been playing some 007, that new one. I don't believe that evil is God's fault, though. I can't prove my beliefs, but yes, diversity is important to outreach. I mean, we kind of talked about that last week. It just depends on what your version of God is. And that alone should make you think, well, wait, why would my exact version always fit exactly what I want? Right? Isn't that a coincidence, right? Like your version of God always usually just fits what you would just want. Why how can everybody be right? Right? Which means it's more likely that everybody's wrong than everybody's right. Hey, hello, Anonymous. The fact that everybody can come up with their own means it's just probably not right, man. Something to think about. We don't have we don't have even one word that was written by the apostles. So in a way, it's impossible that they lied. All right, that's fair. I like that. That's a good point. That is a good point. We don't have any of their shit, so how can I say they lied? Yeah, maybe I should have put uh, are the Gospels, right? Could the Gospels have lied, right? I guess that would be a better, more factual question, right? You don't think you're justified? Sure, right? But I would get into, I would still dig into the part of why not just stick, I don't know, and stick with, right? Maybe you can't make yourself, I don't know. But I feel like you're saying you don't know. So like if part of why the reasons you believe can be wrong, is that not admitting that you don't know? I just feel like that's what I don't know means, is that you're missing some pieces. So you actually don't believe, right? Like you just don't know. It's kind of weird. Like, let me know if I'm wrong, if I'm misrepresenting you there, but it's weird when you really think about it, right? I think you're just saying I don't know, which is kind of what I'm saying. All right, it's just kind of what I'm saying, right? Like I don't know, man. Anybody that says they do know better come and show me, because I want to know, right? I want to know. 100% I want to know, man. There's nothing in me that doesn't want to know. So if you're going to be, and this isn't talking to you, Buck, by the way, this is just a lot of other people. It's like, how dare you get to keep it, right? Show everybody. If you have proof, show everybody. Anonymous, perhaps we can talk about some of the things that I was talking to you about the other day. Today, I want to focus on this one, though. If you have something on the Gospels, why they would not have lied, that's the topic for today. I have to do this for myself because if I don't stick to a topic, I will just roll off into so many different things. I was going back through some of the videos and like really, I was like, oh, okay, I need to make sure we're sticking to the topic, right? And then that way we can kind of go into more details and more depth for there are people that kind of don't understand the things that we're talking about. So it's really unfair to not go into more detail about these things, which is kind of what I want in the first place, because, you know, I want, if you know something I don't know and you can prove it and show it to me, I'm excited about that if you can do that. Let me just say it that way. Like, if you know something I don't know and you can actually show me, you're one of my best friends, man. Like no joke. I need to fix this little timer. That thing was just rolled off. Hold on. I think I go to Streamlabs. I've been trying to integrate a little more smoothness to the stream. I'm kind of a perfectionist in a way. So I go back and look at each one and I'm like, yeah, we're going to change that. So I got the chat showing up. All right, let me change this widget. Pretty sure chat box. See, I know what I'm doing. All right. It says hide message every. No, let's not do that. Let's see how this one works. All right, see how that works, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, Anonymous, if you have something on the topic, you can hop in, we can chat. I have no one waiting at the moment. So yeah, if you want to hop in. I don't have night. People were complaining about Nightbot spamming, so he's not spamming the, anyway, yeah, he's not spamming the commands. Let's see, that works. I think Nightbot's still connected. There it is. There it is. All right. As far as information or misinformation in the gospel goes, I believe that is a lot to do with the power struggle in the early Christian population. Yeah, makes sense. There was obviously a lot of fighting going on, people jostling for power. That is a thing that for sure was going on. I don't think many Christians would deny that. He might go to little offshoots. That's the GOAT. So I think that's not obviously, I don't know what word to use there. It's kind of, I mean, isn't it known that Paul was writing his letters because a lot of this was going on, right? And there was a power struggle going on. And you can only imagine, right, after Jesus dies, how many of them were just trying to jostle for power. I could only imagine that. And that is also more of a realistic sounding story than the story that we have, by the way, is that they had this person that they thought was godly, the person died, and now they're trying to recover and hold on to everything. And in doing that, you do have to come up with lies and stories, right? But you also can't just say that Jesus was nobody, right? You need some figure to hold on to. So, tripping a little bit. I believe I articulated that well enough. You said not even the apostles themselves? Yeah, for sure. And I'm assuming you mean like it wasn't even them doing it? It's an interesting thing, right? And there's a lot of people that would kind of admit these kind of things too, and still believe the story, right? That's what's interesting to me is that there's a lot of people that will go through, completely admit that it's a lie or not correct, and then say they still like maybe that is what you're saying, Buck. I don't know. Like, is that what you're saying? Like, you know this can be BS, but part of you still believes? Because I feel like if you're saying that it can be BS, then you're also not saying, like, it goes back to what I said. I guess I'm repeating myself. It's like you're saying, I don't know again. You're not into doctrine. Oh, I just saw the message just instantly pop up and go away. So I guess I did that wrong too. I mean, that's fair. It sounds like then, how do I word it? Like, was this just like instantly? Crap. All right, I think I got it now. Like, it's just like you were just born, grew up. This is the only thing you're used to. Starts getting a little annoying right there. Hold up. I can see the curtain there. What the? I don't know what all those icons were. They're not showing. I must not have that emoji. Um, I'll be honest. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, I can see it on here. That's funny, but it doesn't show on the chat. There's the blue fish, blue face smiling. We are here to just have some nice conversations with some people and just see if they can admit that the gospels could be lying. I think that's something hard for a lot of people to be able to admit. So if I can just get some people to admit that they could be, I think that's a win. Because most people are too afraid to say that. So if I can get some people to say, hey, these could be lies, I think that's a win and I'll take it. And I'm cool with that. If we can get somebody in here. We'll see. see, what else was I like, part of it's weird too that no, you just another person looking for attention because people are switching. I don't know about that. I still watch apologetic channels too, so I guess I'm one of those people that watch it both. I don't know what to say to that. Yeah, I watch both. I like listening to both. I like to see what everyone has to say. That's for sure. And before I was even talking about this stuff, I was streaming before too. So I guess you're right. I do like attention, and I like to share my thoughts. So I guess that's true. So I don't think I see anything wrong with your statement just yet. Maybe you can help me out more and let me know what kind of statement that was supposed to be, I guess. Because I feel like you meant more, right? But I don't know. I'm not taking it the way that maybe I should be taking it. So maybe you should dive a little deeper for me into that. Just a little bit deeper. Hey, what up? Dean. I'm also surprised by the comment, another black atheist. You didn't even ask me what I was, by the way, but on both of those, just kidding. Oh, I'm sure you watch them, Book, right? I watch them. I watch all the debates between the two. I thought that's what you do, right? Even if you disagree with, how do you know if you disagree with anybody unless you're listening to them? Like, why don't you do that? So, yeah, I'm still looking for somebody to cop in. Um, who's that? ODEB? Let me call you Mayo. If you want to come tell me why it's matters that I'm black and have this kind of content, right? Because I didn't say whether I was an atheist or not. I didn't say any of that, right? I'm just making a statement here. I'm asking a question here. So I wouldn't mind an answer to the question. Right? Let's focus on the question, right? I doubt you follow the morality of the apostles. I don't think you mean that. No, no person that we call civilized follows what the apostles were following. Nobody. So I'm going to call that one out. I don't think you're being honest when you say that. And if you are, let's talk and let me go through all of you share with me all of the things that you follow that the apostles followed. And let's check out these morals since they brought morality. Lied knowingly is interesting, right? Because are you kind of hinting at that Jesus could have been the liar and he just convinced everybody else to share his words? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Don't let me put words in your mouth, by the way. So let me know. Like what you mean by that? Because it's a little interesting to say it that way, right? And then at that point, you can unknowingly spread a lie, but I would not call you a liar at that point. That's kind of how I look at it. I wouldn't call you a liar because you were spreading a lie. Yes, that's one of the main things. That's one of the main rebuttals to anything anyone could ever say, because if everything else about God is true, then this would make no sense that he allowed these mistakes to go through, or allowed for these fallible men to create what is supposed to be the most important book in history. No, it's just nowadays people are associating atheism with toxicity and being biased in certain religious groups. Only Christians, not Jews. I'm talking about every superstition there is. I think every superstition is false until I start to see proof. I no longer am falling for any of that. If you say there's something that's happening, you have to prove it. That's how I am now. I don't play those games. I don't care what religion you are. I am saying if you say there are supernatural things going on, you need to prove it. Because the way I see the United States right now, with our leaders now just saying shit and not having to prove anything, screw that, man. I'm tired of it. We need to start holding people accountable. Either you can prove it or you can't. So that's why I'm saying I don't call myself atheist or whatever, because it doesn't matter to me. My whole point is, if you're going to be spitting out something, make sure you're telling the truth. And I'm not even just telling the truth, because people are like, well, that's what I think is true. No, you have to prove what the hell you believe, especially when everybody's going to start walking around and messing with everybody's rights and all these kind of things, messing with laws. Like, okay, you're going to have to prove what you believe, and just saying it's true because somebody wrote it down 2,000 years ago doesn't fly anymore. No, because today we're talking about the Bible, and we're talking about the Gospels. That's what we're talking about today. Where I live, right, where I live, this is popular. So it makes sense that this is what I would talk about, because you should talk about the superstitions that are in your area. And the superstitions in my area is mostly from Christianity, right? So today's topic is about the Bible. I mean, I think there's some, like, I think everybody's pretty sure Paul wrote Paul, right? So I do kind of say that Christians are actually living Paul's Christianity, probably not Jesus. Jesus seems to have, I'm sorry, Paul's stuff kind of conflicts with some of Jesus's stuff. So where did it come from? I mean, it makes sense just in a naturalistic type of way. We see something we don't understand. Our brains, and I think all brains work this way, right? Your brain has to interpret it in some way to come to some conclusion. to know what it needs to do to survive, right? I believe that would be part of the whole evolutionary process. So there's stuff we don't understand. So our brain will always try to come up with something, right? And then that's the God feeling to me that's my opinion on what the God feeling is. It's just something that seems so beyond you that you don't understand, because if you understood it, you wouldn't really think it's beyond you. So it wouldn't have that same aura of the like feeling it bigger than you, right? It's bigger than you because you don't understand it, right? So that is God. If I hope I laid that out like how I wanted to. I mean, when you say I don't know, it's like weird. So are you saying that parts of the Bible are true? Because we do know parts of the Bible are true, and it's going to be some people probably knew the city names, right? There's people that were probably, since they knew the actual names, they probably were there, right? I kind of grant some of that, right? Obviously, people copied down at least one of these stories and made copies of them, right? Pretty sure most of Mark is in both of these, the Gospels. So one of the again, it's just like, okay, well, why would Luke need to copy Mark at all? Why would there be any word for words? Um, they do have different styles, but in your copying exact words, that's a little strange. It makes it more like y'all came together and kind of made up everything than from it being the other way around. And I'm not saying they wouldn't have like certain exact details, because that's the thing about if you can tell if a story is true or not, is that it's a mix, right? If somebody's giving you their personal opinion about what happened, then it should be very different, unless we go and we're talking about something very specific, right? Like whether the person had a bat or another weapon, right? That's where, yes, the details should be the same. Using animals, I think there's these is probably recent studies, right? There's a lot of recent studies going on trying to decide if certain animals have that same kind of like whatever's going on in your brain, right? When you think of God. I remember reading something where it was talking about the same thing that lights up for when you talk to yourself is the same thing when people pray, which to me makes sense. It doesn't disprove anything, but it's just interesting. Paul and Jesus definitely contradict. I'll let you go find some of the verses because I want you to be honest and go find the verses that you think I'm talking about. Some people made supernatural claims in order to impress people. I think it's not, I think one of the main ones that you can kind of look into is how, or one of the main themes you can look into is how Paul was truly trying to preach to the Gentiles. So there's no coincidence that the laws that Jesus said we are supposed to follow until the end are all of a sudden not supposed to be followed, right? And that just makes sense for the story. Paul had an agenda, so of course Jesus is, or of course Christianity. It's really, that's what Christianity is Paul. What Paul says is Christianity, but he had a agenda. He needed to do something to make this grow, and the only way it was going to grow is if they allowed Gentiles to get into the religion. So all of a sudden, hey, Gentiles, you don't have to get circumcised. You don't have to go by all of these food laws. Only the Jews have to do that. That's, I don't know. That's not a coincidence. I mean, I get what you're saying. I'm talking about the way, I know you're saying Christianity was after like Christ died, right? If you just believe that Christ had risen, that's what you're saying Christianity is. If I'm wrong, let me know. But my point was how Christians try to follow Jesus now are usually going to be from what Paul wrote. Paul got to say what Jesus meant, right? You have like Jesus in the gospel and his words, and then Paul got to come along later and say what he meant, right? Oh, convert. I'm sorry. I get what you're saying. You said Paul was a Christian convert, like he was out there converting people, right? Or are you saying the other thing? No, maybe you're saying both, actually. He did convert to Christianity, and then he also, yeah, actually, you're right. Again, and that ties into the Gentile story. So, okay, I think I got it. Yeah, I think I got you. Let me know if not, but I think I tied that all together. I could be off a little bit, but I think I understand what you're saying. So that's what I like about these kind of conversations too. It took a little longer because I'm reading it, but stuff like that is interesting to me, right? I didn't understand what you were saying. You sat there and gave me details that I could actually think through and think about, like the evidence, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, yes, this goes together. This is what you mean, right? Now, if you would have just said something that wasn't truly in the Bible out of context or something, then now we're making up stuff. But you use the word he was a convert, and I go back in the stories, I'm like, oh wait, yes, he didn't believe at first. That's another factual evidence, right? And to me, I might be preaching to the choir here, but that's what I mean when I'm asking people for evidence. Plus, did y'all all watch the debate between Christian apologists and Muslim apologists? I really don't get that comment. I think it's interesting when Christians debate Muslims, because to me, it's the perfect time that both sides can see how hypocritical they are, but it gets ignored. That's the most interesting thing to me, because a Christian will be like, hey, you have no proof of this. And then the Christian will also go back and say, well, hey, you're just taking it out of context. Like, that's always the answer for, there's always an excuse. Like, there's always an excuse, because you have to believe, right? There's no choice. You have to believe. So you will always have an excuse for why it can't be wrong, unless you're just honest. Buck was being honest, right? Like, if you're honest, then okay, like you'll just say like, yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's wrong in here. Some reason I still believe it. What's your take on abdominal hearing? Abnormal hearing. I said abdominal. I mean, we would probably have to reference some actual studies on it. I won't act like I know about it. I know what you're saying, but I think because I'm not also going to say just because you believe that you're going to heal, it works. So I think there's a lot of factors in that, but there's a reason that it only happens to certain levels, right? Like when you try to get into like some real healing, like what would be obviously miraculous, that doesn't happen that much all of a sudden. So that's something to think about. So yeah, of course, all of a sudden when people need to grow limbs back and stuff, you can't think your way out of that one. It's not hypocritical because you guys always attack Christianity and ignore the other sides. No, I got content on both, but you have to remember, uh, I was saying this earlier before you came in. I live in the United States. So this is the stuff I'm going to be talking about. If I live somewhere else, it's possible I would be talking about that as well. But I only can talk about what I know because that is what I am asking for as well. Let's just talk about what we know and stop pretending to know things. Hopefully that makes sense. Just want people to be honest. Let's just be honest. That's it. God does heal octopuses and starfish. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to heal people and some, not others. And there's a reason that this is true, right? It's just because no one's really getting healed in the way that there's some supernatural being coming down and touching the people, right? Because the Bible, I'm sorry, it would also be weird in its own because you have so many innocent, starving children going on, but like there's plenty of things that could be proved that would prove supernatural. Or sorry, would prove the Christian God if they happen. There are a lot of things that could easily happen because that God is supposed to be all loving and all powerful. So there are many things that I can think of that if they instantly happen, I would automatically believe again, right? Oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, Dean. I didn't mean to say God heals them. Sorry. Obviously, God doesn't heal them. I guess I was pretending that the silliness of it, right? You would have to believe that God heals these things, but not his creatures created in the likeness of him, right? But he'd rather heal a lizard's tail, right? That's what I meant. That's what I meant. I think that makes sense because you're like, wait, no, God doesn't really heal them. Yeah, yeah. No, no, we agree. I just didn't articulate it properly. We talk about Christianity, the most people Christianity affects our lives. Yeah, yeah. If I live somewhere else, I possibly would talk about something else. And if I knew more people that were talking about like there being like ghosts and stuff, honestly, I would be talking about that as well. The same excuses. So what I'm hearing when you're bringing up the other religions is you are actually admitting that you know you believe it's kind of ridiculous, right? So you're like, hey, these guys are being ridiculous too. I believe that's kind of what you're saying. You might be meaning to be that way, but I'm actually hearing you admit some things, which is what I want people to admit. I want you to admit that some of the stuff you believe is just most likely insane and crazy. Hearing your mother preach every day, that's tough. There's I have another recent video of mine where there's this family that's kind of known, but they're like so many generations of inbreeding in some place, and that was kind of their thing where you just sit and pray and it'll happen, and like that's their like family motto. I don't even remember what family it was, but there's some video I have where this can, like you said, drain your soul. This stuff can, yeah, Whitaker's, that's it. If you want to be judgmental, let it be exclusive. Yeah, I am being exclusive, right? I am saying anyone that has supernatural claims, right? Anyone that has supernatural claims is required to show it to me in order for me to believe it. All right. That is a requirement, and it should be a requirement on your behalf as well, because actually it is a requirement when you want it to be a requirement, because when you ask about Islam or you ask about anything that's non-Christian, you ask for proof. But for some reason, if somebody asks you for proof, they're assholes. I mean, of course, I would like to know the meaning to life. I mean, that's why I like to talk to people. I don't, do I really think we'll ever find out? I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know. But this is something that goes into this is something I'm thinking about all the time. So it's something I want to talk about with other people because I know other people are talking about it, or I know other people are thinking about this as well. So my whole thing is we can have these kind of conversations and kind of talk about what things could be, but it's a game, right? That's just a game. And it's a game to make us feel better, just like any other game is when you're playing a video game. You know it's fake, but you're just in the world for a moment, right? So to me, when we're talking about these supernatural things and things we can't prove, we can do that, but it just needs to make sure that we know it's just like this conversation. It's not reality at the moment. And that's the only problem I see with religion as a whole is no one's able to do that because it takes so much practice and it takes so much energy to be able to separate the two. It's very hard for people to have those kind of beliefs and then not integrate those into their lives, right? Which and then in turns affects other people. But if you think about it, we do that all the time. There's small things you believe in that you really don't let affect your everyday life, right? And those are usually the little small superstitions that people might have. It doesn't affect you like this one does, right? So you're already doing what I'm talking about, where you're separating yourself from the beliefs that you cannot prove to how you have to go out into the world. And I'm just saying, let's just all admit what's going on there so we can go out into the world and try to fix it. Like we can't fix the world unless we agree on this thing. Like we have to agree on, you have to be able to prove it. For those who posit in the existence of supernaturals and incumbent upon the person to provide evidence. Yep. If someone makes a claim, they only need to prove it if they want people. You only need to prove it. That's true too. Like, it's not a big deal to prove it, right? And what and my like ultimate agenda is to help people realize this is because and this is me speaking as the United States at the moment, where we as citizens need to come together and realize how we're being used by this division, right? Like, they are, and I hate to use the word they, I hate it, but people that want to take everything from everyone are using this to divide everyone. Well, that's what I mean, right? As soon as your beliefs you want to bring to the table, that's what I mean by you need to provide proof, right? And that's why I gave some examples of things that you don't bring to society, even though in the back of your mind you believe them a little bit. So that's kind of what I was saying. Like, we all do it. So I'm just saying, let's just do it with all of those kind of beliefs. If you can't prove it, it doesn't get to come to the table, right? We can go chat about it outside of the table, right? We can have a little lounge and we can talk about it. But when you want it to become serious, and that means come to the table, then you need to provide some receipts, because we can't just allow anything to be at that table. Otherwise, we end up with what we have at the moment, where a division on, it's a weird division. Like, it's so weird. So weird. Like, the fact that we're allowing over 4,000-year-old texts to destroy us it's beyond me. You don't use atheism to run a country. You don't use theism to run a country. That's silly. That's just a silly comment. I am saying the only thing that comes to the table is proof. So it doesn't matter if you're atheist. It doesn't matter if you're religious. I am saying the only thing that comes to the table is proof. It has nothing to do with what you believe. Right? Like, yeah, atheism isn't like that, right? That's weird. Like, that you say that you, or it's weird that you think it's the same. It's not the same. And I'm still saying, right? Yes, go have your beliefs, man. But when we are coming up with laws and all these other things, we need more facts to come into play. Not that some people 4,000 years ago wrote something down and we have to go by that, because that's never flew. That's just not gonna work, man. All right, anybody, come on, let's get to the topic. I want to hear some reasons why the apostles could not have lied. We've been here for an hour now. Now one come up and why am I discussing? Because I believe if we can get more people that say they believe this, that to also admit that they could be wrong, we're taking some steps. I think that's good. We're making some steps. If I can get people to come up here and be like, yes, I could be completely wrong about the Bible, that's good. Now I can talk to you, right? And now you can talk to me as well, because I don't think that you're just being dishonest. So we're going to have a way better conversation. We're going to have a way better society in that way, because I know at least I can get you to be honest about things. But when you're dishonest about stuff that's obviously false, how am I supposed to trust you as another human being? Yes, Jesus did care about the Old Testament. Jesus had to care about the Old Testament. What do you mean by the USSR used atheism to control people? Curious. Yeah, happy Jesus. That is one of the first comments we made. I was like, maybe I should have changed the prompt to just the Gospels, since we are pretty sure Matthew, Mark, and John did not. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John did not write these. But it's weird that you bring up the bad things that you think atheism caused when there are so many things that Christians have done, even all the way back to the Old Testament, like what believers have been doing to people. They've done some pretty horrible things. So I think when you do the whataboutism, once again, you're just admitting to me. So I would rather you just say the truth instead of doing whataboutism. I would rather you just tell me the truth. And the truth is, there's some messed up things Christians and the Bible and God has even done in the Bible, right? If you can make that honest admission, also, we can have a better conversation, right? So those are just things you have to admit in order for us to continue to have a real conversation. Right. So that's just something I want you to be able to admit. Even if you're in here debating with me as a believer in all of this, you still have to admit that you could be wrong on this. And I think you are admitting that you could be wrong by bringing up whataboutism. I know that's how people argue now, right? You can't talk about the president without somebody saying, what about? So that's how people argue. Nobody wants to bring evidence. You just want to say what somebody else did instead of focusing on you. If theists try to fix their errors, then can we change the Bible to say that slavery is bad? Right, cool. Yeah, Buck, you did admit. Maybe I should have like a little running counter of believers that say they can be wrong, right? Like I said, you're welcome in my community. If you can admit that you can be wrong and we can come up with a system to where we can still work together, then to me, that's cool, right? I, in no way am I trying to tell anyone not to believe. I just want honesty. That's all. Yes, we know slavery is bad, but the Bible did not. And that was one of the last shows. So I don't want to get back on that subject at the moment because we already did that. You had to go back to one of my last lives, and that was in there. I'm waiting on someone to come up to talk to me about gospels. But I am enjoying the chat discussion at least. So I do appreciate y'all hanging out with me at the moment. Here, let me look up some lies of or should it be lies, or let's see. How would I do this? How do I want to discuss this? Well, I guess what are some of the let's since no one else wants to, since I don't have a believer that wants to talk about the apostles at all, let's kind of brainstorm some of the apologetics of why people believe that they did not lie. Right. We're going to skip over the fact that obviously the first lie would be that they just didn't write it. We're gonna pretend that they did write it. We're gonna say Matthew, Mark, Luke and John actually wrote it because it's more interesting that way. Because if we just say they didn't write it, then I believe the whole argument's just defeated instantly, almost, right? We can talk about how they're fairy tales. I think that's a very interesting thing. That's probably an interesting topic to start at because the fairy tale thing is kind of interesting because if you go and look at other things that we would admit are fairy tales, the gospels seem to have all those criterion or criteria, all that criterion, I think, but something like that. But they have like the hero, right? Let's look at what are those criterias. Oh, you're true. That's true, actually. I'm sorry. I think it was. I always get those mixed up a little bit. I wish you would have said more, Michael John. I think I gave you some chances to kind of speak up. Did I keep misspeaking there? Yeah. Yeah, that's my bad on that. All right. So, yeah, the Gospels are the collection of the stories. I was just, thanks for saying what I was, yeah, there you go. Yeah, he could have engaged. I wish he would have. It kind of disappoints me when people cannot engage because they're so scared. It's just weird. I guess my point to this is right because we do keep going back to the fact that the Gospels were obviously not written by the apostles, but their stories are what was written down. So I think that's what I'm tying together because it is easier to lie about a story you're just telling someone, right? So when things were just word of mouth and they were just passing these on word of mouth in that way, I guess that is kind of like my focus to this, right? Does that make sense? Because to me, it's really easy to lie about what happened down the town or down in the town over there where no one else was at. And you can just sit there and start saying these stories about what happened. So it's definitely possible. It's also one of those things where it's the weirdest that we just believe it. Yeah, it's weird that people just just instantly just believe it. Like there, it's weird that there's no thought in some people's brains that it could be a lie, and I don't know if that's just because it's fear or what. But obviously, anyone could have lied. That to me, that the prompt answer is really easy. It's yes. Like Of course, these people could have lied. And even, I guess that's what I was trying to make it easy, right? Because I want to start with very small admissions, right? If you can admit just the small ones, even though it's a big small one, by the way. But it's the reason I call it small is because it's obvious that anyone could lie. There are no claims that the apostles could not lie. So the only honest answer you could give me is that yes, they could have lied. So if you tell me that they couldn't have lied, then I know that you are being a dishonest person. So I think that's the easiest way I can say how I'm tying this all together. I mean, sure, you're talking to somebody that's willing to admit that, right? I want believers to admit that. And I think that's what makes it weird for the believer, unless happy Jesus, I don't think you're a believer, but I think that's what's weird for a believer to be able to admit that, right? It's kind of hard to say that, hey, Jesus didn't really walk on water, bro, but I still believe. It's tough. Yeah, everything is leading up to something, right? Just as if you were watching Harry Potter. Every scene is leading up towards the grand finale, right? But for some reason, this story though has people tripping. Like this one hasn't, and there's no. I mean, the only difference to me though, which is an obvious difference, so I can be fair here, is that a bunch of people decided to make this thing what it is, right? I don't know why, whether it was because it had a good use case, which is more likely, but for sure, for the last however many thousands of years, people wrote the shit out of this thing, copied it, and people have believed it since. So that is true, right? There have been people that have believed it since. I'm just wondering if the people that could have started this thing could have lied. And I think that's possible. And if I can get some other honest people to say that that's possible, hey, we have a win for the day. So you want to ask me what my goal is for this stream right here? That's the goal. That's the goal. Yeah, like I said, we don't have no one hopping in today. It's all good. We'll keep trying to hit or miss. We'll see how streams goes. The last few have been pretty good, and this one we've had some good conversations too. We'll probably give it about like 10 or 15 more minutes and see if anybody wants to come chat. It could just be the time. I was gonna do this at like 6:30, but part of me wanted to just relax tonight, or maybe get another video done. So, but I did say that I was gonna at least think I did stream what 3-4 times this week, I think. So that's pretty good for me. And then I can take this next 2 weeks of streaming and then probably come up with a better schedule. We did have, I said we had one video today, or one video today. Have another one coming out tomorrow at 11. So I'm trying to get to 2 a day. But I don't get along with most apologists. That's tough. I mean, it's hard to get along with apologists when you are admitting things that they say you cannot admit or it's blasphemy. Yeah, I believe all the religious stories like that are impossible and silly. It's like all stories we usually make up like this. You know what I mean? Like Dr. Seuss. I bring up the Magic School Bus a lot because as a kid, I think most kids recognize that you can't turn into a small little bus and go inside of somebody's nose, right? We know how stories work, but you can still relay a message even though everybody knows it's fake. What's weird would be is if everybody thought the Magic School Bus was real, right? Like, no, really. Like we would we would call those people insane, I believe. But we have grown adults ruling the country, making our laws, and they believe some of these things that we know are impossible. That is scary. That should scare everybody. Even a believer, it should scare. You don't want somebody that you don't know if what they're seeing is real or not to have that kind of power. You don't want that. You want someone that's able to distinguish between reality and what's in their brain and dreams. But so it's like you think you want these kind of people to be in charge, and you really do not want these kind of people to be in charge. And I think a lot of believers forget that. You really don't. You don't want it. You don't want it. Like, have you not had a bad pastor at one point, right? But everything they said was like that's what the church did and stuff like that. And it was just because anything they said, and it was coming from God, by the way. That's what makes it so powerful, right? And then it's just turns you into a person that just listens to authority because it's like trained into you. All you care about is, hey, who has the most power? I'm going to listen to them. And that would never build a very good society. And you don't even want to live in a society like that, right? I think a lot of people fantasize what it would be like if it was like ancient times where there was just a religious based state. Yeah, we don't know about the apostles at all. Definitely don't know about their beliefs. We have people that claim that they talked to them and knew about their beliefs, I guess. But my whole point being, even if these people were real, they could have lied. The term of art is bullshitting. I guess we can call it something like that, right? Yeah, da, da. And welcome, by the way. We're just in here seeing anybody wants to come up here and talk. But we only have a little bit longer, so it's cool. I think we did have some excuse me. I think we did have some good conversations though. Nobody stepped up to jump on the call, but like I said, I still enjoy these. It's like a Sunday type of Bible talk, right? Yeah, I said Paul. We're pretty sure about Paul, which is why I say the religion that Christians have today is just Paul's religion. It's called Christianity, but what's it called? Paulianism. It's he's really the one that made it. Joseph Smith. I don't know enough about Joseph Smith, right? I had like a buddy that was a Mormon when I was younger. I never really learned too much about it. Uh, yeah, I know there's still people that believe that as well. So, like I said, show me the proof, then we'll talk about it. Until I see the proof, I'm going to lump you together as a supernatural ghosts believer that can't prove it and also doesn't live their life that way really either. So it makes me wonder if you even really believe it. Because if you believed in some of these things, I do not think you could go about a regular day life as a lot of Christians do, right? Because some of these beliefs are so scary that I don't think you could live as a regular person if you really like 100% believed it, right? Have you seen George Carlin's take on the Ten Commandments? Let me look. Let me look. I like some George Carlin. I don't think I can play it, but I'll look at the highlights. All right, let's see. Carlin's point. The Ten Commandments are often treated like a perfect moral foundation, but many of them are about worshiping God, not morality. And the actual moral rules can be simplified into basic principles people already understand. All right. I was looking for the joke. I'm sure there's like a joke. Carlin mocked these because they tried to police internal desire. Yeah, it says commandments that are already obvious. Don't murder, don't steal, don't lie against people, don't commit adultery. Nah. There's a possibility. Commandments that are desires. Don't covet your neighbor's stuff. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. I want to hear the joke. That's what I was looking for. Hold up. Sorry, just got here. Looks like the stream's been on for a while, so my apologies if I'm repeating something already. Oh, you're good. All good. No, I mean, I think these kind of conversations end up repeating. We just repeat anyway. Because some of these answers are just so obvious. Like they really are. So the answers are just so obvious. It's just the people that just won't admit it. Right. And as we speak of it, it's too scary to admit it. Because if you admit one of these things, it kind of will destroy your whole belief system in a way. So that's what makes it so scary for some people. But we did, like I said, we've had a couple people. I don't know if we got one person to admit that if it was a lie yet, though. Just saying. Or could have been, right? Could have been. What am I looking for? Crap, forgot what I was looking for. I was about to I was about to do something other, I forgot. It's something to do with a stream. I just can't freaking remember it. Yeah, I mean, I think I know what you're talking about. And when I Googled it, it kind of was giving me the points he was making. So I'm pretty sure I know what you're saying, but I just forgot. But I'll probably play it like after I say we're almost done hanging out. Uh, doesn't Paul? No, Paul says he actually was not one, right? Or yeah, he said he was not, and that he didn't consult, right? Let me see. But he did consult with people that knew them, right? All right, so it says Paul says he did talk to some of the apostles, but his own letters make it sound like he did not. Sorry. He did not immediately learn Christianity from them. Okay. Because, of course, he had his own vision, right? Why he waited 3 years is weird. Says, so yeah, he talked to James, right? The Lord's brother. So that's not apostle. He says he met Peter and James. Okay. Says he met with the leaders again. So he added John to the list on that one now. Yeah. I forgot our point of looking that up, by the way. Um, just you had to remind me. I can't remember why we exactly were looking up Paul. Romans 11:13. Now I'm speaking to the Gentiles, inasmuch then as I am an apostle of Gentiles, I am magnifying mystery. Paul considers himself special. Yeah, yeah, Paul does. Paul is special. That is for sure. Thank you. Yeah, I was seeing that. I'm catching up here. Yeah, Paul, gone 3 years. That it is interesting. Conveniently, what Paul gets and sees, which another hint at me that he could have just been lying. He's not an apostle, but it's just more proof that people were taking this story and making it their own, and anyone could say that they had a vision of Christ, right? And as long as you could do it correctly, like Paul did it very well, right? You are able to now convince others that want to believe it so bad. Or they could have just known it was a lie. And that's why they used, I guess they didn't use Paul. I think I don't know history on that. Were they not around or no, we know some of them were around during some time period. So like when did Paul write his, was it 40 years or? I remember I was watching something about some apologetic stuff on this because I like to listen to both so I can know where to call the contradictions out. All right, so Galatians is the earliest, so that's 48 years after. Do we trust something that's 48 years after? 48 years, guys. Now that I know this isn't apostle, but yeah, I got some 48 to 50. So it's just like at that point, what what can you believe at that point? Like that's crazy. That sounds like somebody that waited for the opportune time to come on and make their own story up. Kind of like remaking a movie in a way. We see it all the time now, where there'll be a movie that kind of flops, and then somebody will wait until it dies off, and then they'll remake it. Well, that's what we were just discussing, right? Paul could have known some people that known Jesus, knew Jesus, but I mean, it's interesting. But I guess my point to this part is it's not just something that the way people pretend to just know it's true. There is no like concrete evidence like that. These are all just like stories that got put together and got some little special bow around them. Yeah, sure, right? Okay, I get what you're saying that it may be closer, but it doesn't like I don't even remember some like in some very serious events that happened in the last 10 years. I would not be able to sit there and tell you word for word what even I said, right? And these aren't just events that are like everyday things. These are also just very dramatic events that I do remember. I don't remember the words people were saying. So that's, I don't know. Hey, all right. Thanks, Bud, for stopping in. You're actually perfect timing. I think you hung out with us almost the whole time. Thanks for your honesty as well. Uh, we'll definitely probably be ending pretty soon since we don't have any chatters. I mean, we got chatters, we just don't have no voice calls, which is fine. Well, sure, I remember what was important, and I'm not even talking about remembering the actions. I'm saying we're supposed to believe that they remembered the exact words, right? Jesus preached for 3 years. Is that correct? Which is also another thing that just I'm just like, come on now. 3 years. Couldn't go overseas and preach over there. Couldn't just go preach across the world. And there's different conflicting things I know about when Jesus died and stuff, but that's its own problem for me. Is the most important message ever, but I'm only going to tell it to a very select few of people that will take centuries to go spread it. And they'll go spread it with blood, by the way. That's a toughie, man. Yes, that's what it's saying, like the number of Passovers. So John 2:13 Passover near in the beginning, John 6:4 another Passover, John 11:55 or John 12:1 Passover near Jesus' death. So, yep. You guys don't forget to be nice and hit that little like button for me. Said we'll be trying to do more of these. The last few times we had it popping in here, we at least had a couple of callers each time. So doesn't look like that tonight, but that's okay. Because I can do one last little ditch effort to see if we can get some folks in here. Because I don't mind chatting a little longer. I'm actually enjoying the conversation. Wait, what was that? That ain't my stream. I can go give me some more orange juice and chat it up a little longer. If you want to come up to the stage, I will let you decide that, and I will be right back. We'll give it a little longer to see if people hop in, but I'll be right back. There's somebody who wants to chat. Let me see. I have to do some weird crap about settings, so give me a second here. Edit channel. Thought I did this the other day, but works and it doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So like every time I fix it, it doesn't fix. All right, let me try this. We might just go to this room and see if it works. Does that still work? Still nothing, huh? Okay. We had this problem last time, dang it. I feel like we did. Like it should be, you also shouldn't be able to move yourself. I think I got a lot of settings messed up. Hold on, let me see. I figured it out last time. We'll figure it out again. All right. Everyone in the channel should be able to speak. I have that on. Let me turn it off and on again. Okay. I have everybody can speak voice. Got chat permissions. What did I do last time? Maybe we'll have to start doing like some Zoom or something. Oh, it looks like it's unmuted now. You're definitely unmuted. Let's see. Maybe you're over there setting up your stuff. That's possible. Atheism, actually. Are you here? Checking. Yeah, it says you're unmuted now. You might have to check your microphone settings because I definitely have you here. That is for sure. And you are no longer showing muted, so you definitely figured out the mute. Just check your little microphone input options and see what's up. Okay, now it said you deafened yourself, so you're definitely doing some things. Okay, now it says you left. Now you're back on. You just turned green a little bit, so getting close. You're deafened again. We're gonna get it. We'll get it. Just growing pains, that's all. I mean, you're definitely unmuted though, so that's good.
Testing, testing.
Hey, there it is.
Hey.
I knew we would figure this out.
I think push to talk was on. That's weird.
You're good. How's it
right.
going? Oh crap.
Yeah, sorry for the delay there.
Oh, you're good, man. Oh, good. Oh crap, what is this? Trying to, thought I had something set up. Anyways, what did you have to discuss today?
Well, I just wanted to expand on what I was saying about bullshitting, right? So like, because actually this was kind of at the top of my mind, because recently an apologist or someone who's defending Christianity was trying to pitch the liar, no, the Lewis's trilemma to me.
Lewis's trilemma, huh? What's that? So I can know.
The very alliterate, the nicely alliterative liar, lunatic, lord.
Liar, lunatic, lord.
That's
Okay,
C.S. Lewis, the apologist and author of Chronicles of Narnia, C.S. Lewis.
Yeah.
So he pitched this idea. He authored Mere Christianity. He pitched this idea of, or this framed it as, you must either consider Jesus to be, a lunatic, which is like, someone who's completely unhinged, or a liar, like someone who's deliberately deceptive, or Lord, like actual, ground of being, actus purus, origin of potency, God in the flesh, etc., etc.
Is that choice really there? That's what they're saying.
Well, that's the classic Lewis trilemma, right? That's the
Yeah.
C.S. Lewis's trilemma, and it's used a lot, like a lot. I mean, C.S. Lewis is quite overrated, in my opinion, and in the opinion of many others, but he is super popular among Christian apologists, and some basically, whose apologetics consist of basically doing nothing but rehashing or repeating what he said. But yeah, at least the liar part. I mean, first of all, actually, the lunatic part itself is a bit problematic, because you can be like deluded. You can be like a high functioning person who's deluded in some regards, right? That's one thing. You have to be like guy in a padded cell with a straitjacket if you're not quite there.
I agree.
And for the liar part, and bringing back what I was saying earlier, is that you could be, not exactly lying, as in like, I know for a fact that Jesus died. I have seen his body put in the tomb, and I have seen it there afterwards, and that kind of thing. It's more like, you don't know that he hasn't resurrected.
Yeah.
And it'd be really great if he did.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to go with that copium because I really want it to be true, that kind of thing. Which isn't like lying. It's more like, it'd be nice if it were, and then there's a slippery slope from, could have to should have to must have to did.
100%. I think knowing all of those things is where I start to shift people towards they are lying a little bit. Because I think we all know those things you just said, which should make you question what your belief is with that, right? Because everything you said, I think a lot of people would recognize as truth if you weren't talking about what they feel personal about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And maybe you're saying that too, and I'm just dumbing it down.
yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just kind of pointing out that people often, even with non-religious,
Right.
narratives, they kind of insert things that they embellish, they add details that they're not entirely sure are false as such, but like could have been true or would make the story cooler or more memorable or things like that. And sometimes they themselves remember it with those more memorable features that they themselves have added to it.
Oh yes, for sure. Especially that last point. When I tell a story about me playing basketball, it's always
Mm,
better than it really was.
yeah,
You always
yeah,
add it, and if I want you to feel sad, the story is
mm,
always a little bit sadder.
mm, yeah. There's actually an anecdote I'd like to bring here as well. As in 2023, right? You can look this up as well, and look up the rebuttals to it as well. There was an event called SatanCon that was held in the Boston area.
Right.
As the name suggests, it was like a convention of the Satanic Temple organized it. Satanic Temple in nearby Salem, Massachusetts, organized it, and like I think something like 800 people attended,
Yeah, I'm looking it
and
up now. Yeah.
like, within just days afterwards, there were quite a lot of preachers at this event, and within just days afterwards, because they knew it was going to happen. So basically, like a lot of preachers were parked outside, and there was like some hall nearby at some nearby hotel was reserved by some one of these evangelist groups to have like a count like a like deliverance prayer session or whatever to counteract the satanic whatever.
Yeah.
And
Crazy.
the thing is, within just days, there were claims of going around that like increasing numbers of people were being converted. It's like starting to 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 pop in. Like people were saying that, oh, we converted like the like dozens of people turned into almost. It snowballed into almost like over 100 people converted, which is almost like 1 in 8 to 1 in 6
They were just out there
attendees of
converting,
SatanCon.
converting
Yeah,
Satanists. Yeah.
like brought to Jesus, or how would they frame it? And I mean, there's like no evidence. No one actually came forward saying that they converted, and some people actually posted pictures of people they claim to have converted, and these people were actually located and found to have not converted.
Yeah,
So
I'm looking through the
and then
story now. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
and they actually and when faced with this with the fact, they were just like, oh well, we just planted the seed of Jesus and that kind of counts or whatever. But yeah, it's like the idea of increasing numbers of people being converted was so compelling, and it made national news and everything that Christian grifter Sean Focht or what his name is was making hay of this, making publicity hay of this. So yeah, it's like you have a compelling narrative, and everyone should be wary of this. By the way, I mean religious or otherwise, it's
Yes.
a tempting thing.
No, I agree with that, and it's one of the things that I'm trying to focus on more because somebody will make fun of this, and then I'll talk to them a little
Mm,
bit deeper, and they also have some weird belief as well, right? So it's just like I'm trying to
mhm,
focus on that fact that you just said, how this can take over like your thinking process, like, and you just start making up shit. Like you just said,
mm,
they literally made up that they converted people because they thought the
mm.
lie is benefiting the long run. That's creepy to me.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, that's creepy as hell. I mean, I hope that's kind of what you were meaning, because that's what I got out of it.
yeah,
Is yeah,
yeah, and I think there also is some more mundane kind of mechanics or like psychological phenomena at play here, right? It could be like say one person tells two different people. Hello?
yep, I got you.
Yeah, so like one person tells like two different people, like let's say they had a cordial conversation with say three attendees of the SatanCon, right? And they tell like two different people, I converted like, half a dozen SatanCon attendees just based on, like having cordial conversations or not having non-hostile conversations with say SatanCon attendees, right? And these two people, and they get together and it's like, oh, you heard that like half a dozen people were converted? Well, I heard that half a dozen people were converted, so it must have been that like, 2 dozen people were
yeah,
converted.
24.
It just kind of snowballs to that, and they tell other people, it circulates, the number just keeps growing like that. And I think actually that might be how, for example, that how Paul says that he heard from someone that 500 people saw Jesus at once. It could just be like a few people maybe you know praying and fasting or whatever in a bit of a delirium, saw someone whom they mistook for Jesus, or saw some trick of light or something and decided that was Jesus or something like that. And then they began telling people, and people began telling one another, and then that numbers likewise might have snowballed into 500 or whatever.
That story also makes more sense. But how I usually view those kind of things is it's if we have to add that many conspiracies, it probably just didn't happen. Like that's kind of how
Yeah.
I like to go into those, right? Where it's just like you even did it in a way, but you weren't even saying it was the overall was true. You were finding a way that it could possibly be true, but we still had to make up a story. And I think that's the problem. Like there's no way for us to know at all. So I would rather lean that, hey, these stories are just stories. There is zero proof that any of it happened at all. Because we know somebody wrote it down. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah, I would. There's another interesting detail, by the way, that I noticed a while back. In 1 Corinthians 15, in the passage that contains that claim of the 500, there's nothing at all indicating the timeline in which these appearances happened. You know which I'm referring to, right? 1 Corinthians 15, the creed.
Yeah, let me look it up, but I'm pretty sure. But let me go ahead. First Corinthians 15.
Yeah, where he says, first Jesus appeared to Peter, to
gotcha.
To the 12, then
died for his sins, was buried, rose on the third day, appeared. Peter, 12, 500, James, apostles,
and then all the
Paul.
apostles. And there's no indication in there of what over what period and what kind of gaps were there between these. I mean, this idea that it all happened within 40 days, except for Peter, it all happened within 40 days, comes entirely from the Gospels, which are much later, right? Peter doesn't give any indication. Like if Peter, like you have all these appearances before Peter happening within 3 days and 40 days after the crucifixion, and then Peter happening like 3 freaking years later.
Yeah,
that's a huge deal. And furthermore, also those earlier appearances happening, in the flesh, displacing matter and consuming fish and exhaling air and things like that, all that stuff, right? And then Peter, like just getting a bit of a light and maybe a sound show 3 years later. Peter doesn't qualitatively distinguish his own appearance from those other appearances. He doesn't give any indication that those happened within a really tight time period compared to his appearance. It's like he just lists them, and lastly me. That's it. So from his perspective, it's entirely possible that all these other appearances could have happened, like maybe Peter after a few weeks or something like that, or and James like maybe 2 years later, or whatever. It's
sure. Well, you're saying, like you say, it's possible, right? Like, yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, at least as far as what we know from the epistles, it's possible. I'm not aware. I mean, someone correct me if you know, but like, I'm not aware of anywhere else where there's any indication of this like any kind of timeline being established for these appearances. It's just like an order of appearances. That's all that's given, and let alone any kind of like qualitative.
Can we get some of this, or have they already did this? I'm still, like I said, I'm still doing a lot of studying about this. The fact that when Josephus was writing, could we not use that as like, okay, he's writing that there are these people walking around talking about believing in Christ or whatever their exact words are. Can't we use that to kind of determine when stuff must have been written? Because when was Josephus? Wasn't that like 70 years later? I believe so.
Yeah, it was definitely way, like Josephus wasn't even born at the time Jesus could have died.
Right, yeah. Not if he wrote in 70. Let me see. But I'm saying like we were trying to figure out like, because I'm all about like what can we actually even know a little bit of, and then I would see
Mm.
what stories could make sense. I think that's just how you should do it, right? That's just normal. Um,
Mm.
so it's just like if Josephus was writing about this 20, or Josephus could have known about this 20 years before he started writing. Do we know when Josephus started writing? Maybe that's what I should ask. Do we know that?
I think Josephus, like the Testimonium Flavium, I think it was something like 90 CE or so.
Okay, because it says he was
Like
born in
95.
37. Okay.
Yeah, so he would have been about 50 years old.
Okay.
No, about
So
60.
does he? Oh, and you're saying that's his earliest writing? Is that what I'm hearing?
No, I mean I'm talking about just the part where he talks about Jesus. So that's in the Testimonium
Uh,
Flavium.
okay. Oh yeah, that would still work with what I'm saying. So it's just like if there's a way to kind of date that, then you could date if it's even uh like when he would have got, or when who he could have heard that story from, right? Because it had to be people that were not generations, but at least 30 years, 40 years after Jesus' death, that also would have just heard are also already a part of the tradition. So it's like, can I believe
Oh,
that at that point? Like even if Josephus really wrote it, because I know uh there's some speaking or some, I'm sorry, there's some whispers that it was like a BS line that somebody added in. But even if he's telling the truth, he still could have just heard it from the people that are just making it up, because it's still
that I mean that's a
30 or 40 years
possibility.
later.
Yeah, if he's hearing it, say when he's born in, let's say if Jesus died and let's just go by the Orthodox date of 33 CE, then I mean he's born in 37, so I don't know, maybe he's like in his teens.
Yeah.
He'd be in his
Let's give
teens
him
maybe about 20 years later.
15. I'm gonna say like 15 because people had to grow up earlier back then. So I'll give him
Yeah.
15 that he's starting to write down anything. And do we have anything
Mm.
that he wrote when he was 15? I guess that's what I'm asking. Do we know about that? I don't know. I'm really asking, and if you don't know, that's fine. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, he'd be 15 in about 51 CE, which would be around the time that the first Pauline epistles start going out to the churches in Corinth and sorry, not Corinth, but Thessalonia.
Okay. And
So I don't
I'm
know
kind
if
of taking notes here. I'm writing. I like to research all this stuff because this is like I've just started recently researching it from like not believing it, and it's been very interesting because I've always been skeptical of it, but I had just believed it.
uh,
But I was one of those Christians that just told you like, yeah, this is probably wrong, but I'm hoping when I die, somebody will, or God will tell me that how I was wrong about it being wrong, right? That's kind of how I was. But I would admit to you if something didn't make sense. So now I'm going through like researching what maybe is like just plain common sense to you, because you sound like you have more knowledge on this than me. So it's like interesting to hear, because you said like Josephus started writing something in around 51, right?
oh, no, no, Josephus could have heard about this I don't know when exactly he may have heard about it. He started writing about it in the 90s or so.
Oh, way after.
So
Oh, that's even further.
yeah, yeah, like the Testimonium Flavium is believed to have been written about 90 CE, so it would have been written almost 60 years after Jesus would have like going by the Orthodox date, would have died or so. 60 to 50, let's say 50, 55 to 60 years after.
Yeah, when I hear something like that, I automatically go to I can't trust it. I can't trust that. If you're just now writing something 60 years later, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, it's possible he could have heard about, things like the trial of Jesus from people who may have witnessed it early on, because there's a book recently published by let me see if I got the name right, Timothy Schmidt, about Josephus. Let me double check that.
Hey, Phoenix. I don't think I can call myself an actual atheist, right? I just want to use the definitions correctly. Unless the definition of atheist is not knowing. Like, I just want to use the definitions, right? So it's not like I'm scared of the word. It's just there is still part of me that I this is important to me, that I do not use in any decision in my life, that still believes in some weird shit. I just don't know what it is. But it does not affect how I live my life. That's kind of my main point. What were you saying? What should I call you?
Sorry, me?
Yeah, sorry.
You can call me Anthony.
Anthony, all right. I'm Jay, man.
Nice to meet you, Jay.
Yeah, so I know you were about to say something.
Okay. I put the name in the chat. It's T.C. Schmidt. He's written about Josephus and how Josephus would likely have known people who have at least been in his trial. But again, like, a trial and execution is a relatively mundane thing. It's not like...
Right, that would have been normal. But according to the Gospels, though, Jesus was like a freaking superstar, right? Don't you take it that way?
According to the Gospels, yes. Yeah. And yet we have no, contemporaneous recording of him or anything like that.
Right. Which amazes me, by the way. Especially since this was a part of God's plan. I could imagine, right, when I believed, I was like, oh yeah, God did this at the perfect time, because Rome ruled the world and they would have spread the word of this Jesus that they killed. But no, they didn't do that. There's nothing. There's just nothing. They don't mention this person that called himself God, that had thousands of people following him around from city to city. And they killed him, by the way. Like, Rome, wouldn't they have been like, yeah, this is what the fuck we do to people? I don't know. Or do you think they would have been quiet? I don't know. That's the question, I guess.
Well, I think definitely on theism, like on the premise of Christianity, you could expect much more, documentation, like circumstantial documentation, something like, someone writing about all of a sudden there are a lot of tombs broken open in Jerusalem, according to Matthew 27, or writing about, like, yes, according to the Gospels, there are many people who saw Jesus do miracles and believed that he did miracles, but didn't believe that he was God. So some of these people could have just written, like, hey, I saw this guy, raise this guy from the dead, and I confirmed he was dead, and now he's alive. And the devil, did it or whatever. But we don't have any such like contemporaneous recordings of skeptics. The entire recording of him or anything about him really comes only from people within the cult, or people reporting on what people in the cult believed.
Right.
Or reporting, maybe Josephus wrote, reporting on mundane details of his life from much later.
No, that makes sense. I just don't understand. I think everyone can recognize what you're saying can be true. So if a believer won't admit that, that's where I struggle. And that's why I have that prompt where it's just like, could. That's why I use the word could. It's just because it's obvious that they could have lied. Like it's weird to me how someone can say it is impossible for them to have lied. That is weird.
Yeah, or made stuff up rather. Yeah.
You say it nicer than me. What is the difference between making stuff up and lying, I guess?
Well, again, it's like I'm kind of going in the vein of bullshitting, right? It's like you don't know what the facts are, but you're just filling in those gaps with more cool sounding, more compelling sounding things. So just like the people at SatanCon, like they didn't know for sure that these people were definitely not converted. They didn't know for sure that the number of people was definitely not 120. So they just, went with a cooler sounding story. So in the same way, these people didn't know, for sure. They didn't go and see his dead body or whatever. So they just kind of made up that he was resurrected. Maybe Peter had some kind of dream about him, and maybe Paul, fell from his horse or whatever, or had some kind of trauma from having to kill all these people and stuff. And yeah, I mean it's just it started from there, and then people much later, heard these claims and kind of began fleshing it out with cool sounding things because they didn't know that it was definitely false.
Yeah, no, I get it. I still think you're being a little nicer about the lie word. I am just saying if you are knowingly saying something that you aren't sure is true, I kind of lump it into the gradient of liar. It's like a gradient,
Yeah.
right? Like you know that
Oh.
what you're saying isn't true for sure, right? Which makes you now a liar to me.
Yeah.
Right. So that's cut out. But you're nicer about it. That's cool.
Just a little bit off topic. Have you heard of TV Tropes? The website.
Oh no. Let me look.
Well, I recommend it to people. I mean, just because it's a fun read, but it also can send you down quite a bit of a rabbit hole because the articles basically link to other tropes and everything, and they all named very. They all have funny names and everything. It's
It
pretty
says
nice.
TV Trope is a website that catalogs common storytelling patterns, character types, plot devices, and repeated themes in movies. Yeah. Okay. Shows, books, games. All right. I'm down for this.
Yeah, just across media, culture, storytelling, basically, and a lot of it is kind of focused on, more recent media, but it kind of goes back to kind of pulling out these tropes, these patterns across storytelling. And there's some really interesting things. Like the one important storytelling trope is the rule of cool, right? Like it doesn't matter if anything really in the story, whether something in the story makes sense, isn't as important as whether it sounds cool.
Right.
So that's like one of the major tropes. Another one that I really find relevant oftentimes when discussing religion, and I find many of these tropes and trope descriptions relevant when discussing religion, is Belisario's maxim. And Belisario's maxim is basically, don't think about this too deeply.
Oh yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah.
perfectly.
So
Yeah.
it's the idea this is more meant to just convey some kind of a directionality or to inspire or to just tell a cool story, and you shouldn't be trying to get it to fit or whatever.
Yep. No, that makes sense. This ties in perfectly. That's funny. Yeah. It all these things that we know, by the way, it's crazy to me that we have so many people though that know that about other stories, but their personal feelings are so involved in this one that all of a sudden what they know doesn't count anymore. That's, yeah, I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here with you, but that's just what's so interesting to me.
Yeah, no, it's very relevant. So I read a lot of mythologies and stories from around the world, and the Hindu mythologies, Chinese mythologies, ancient European mythologies, and so on, and other Middle Eastern mythologies. And you often see many of these same patterns kind of emerging there. Sometimes even within Christianity, actually, even within the tradition. For example, Jesus' feeding of the 5,000, right, or the 4,000. depending on which story. Well, there's something that actually reflects to Elisha, right? The prophet Elisha split. I think it was like 20 loaves among 100 people, and there was some left over. I think it's in Second Kings 18. Um, where is it? Yeah, sorry. Second Kings 4, verses 42 to 44.
Yeah, I know I heard this story before, but I used to be so good at my Bible verses but I stopped. All right, yeah, 20 loaves of barley bread and some fresh grain. Gives it to the people. Some say they may eat. Several, basically, 100 men. How do those miracles work? When you're like, does the food, like, you cut it and it just grows? You know.
I'm not clear actually. I did watch I watched a Jesus movie a long time ago, and it just showed like people reaching into the basket, and when they lift a piece of bread, another piece of bread appears in its place or something like that. It's like,
Like a magic
I'm not really
hat.
sure.
It's a magic hat.
Yeah,
It's just a magic damn hat.
yeah.
I don't know,
But you
man.
can see the trope over here, right? Like there's like someone has Elisha says give the food give the people food. Then someone says like incredulously, how do I feed all these people with this much? Then Elisha says, do it anyway. They will eat and have some leftover. Then they actually eat it, and they have some leftover.
Yeah.
And you can see this like this exact same pattern, just with different numbers of loaves and different numbers of people and different amount. You know, it's unspecified here how much is left over, but like they also have leftover in the feeding of the 5,000. And we know that Jesus was like, compared to Elijah, and Elisha is Elijah's protege. So kind of like Elijah, Elisha. Actually, even Elijah and Elisha both have multiple food multiplication miracles. This is one of Elisha's, but that's most close. But Elijah also does that too. So you can just see like people going, oh well, Jesus is not just another Elisha or Elijah. Jesus is greater than Elijah. And then it eventually starts being like, oh well, if Elijah could, or if Elisha could, feed 100 people with 20 loaves, then Jesus could surely feed like thousands of people with just 5 loaves. Or,
And that's obvious story progression there. Like, it's like, of course, Jesus could do better. Like, yeah, like every miracle's better. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, the massacre of the innocents, for example, in Matthew 2, for example, Herod killing the baby boys in Bethlehem. Parallels Moses' escape from Pharaoh killing the baby boys of the Israelites. Those kinds of parallels as well.
Well, there's only so many stories you can write. You got to start copying stories eventually.
Yeah. I mean, there might be even some copied from Greek, like for example, Jesus' turning water into wine. Parallels, Dionysus, the Greek god of wine. Like how
I heard that one.
there's a fountain of Dionysus where water is said to turn to wine like once a year or something like that.
I never heard that one. Yeah, these are all interesting for sure. It's funny that the blinders go up and people don't want to see these kind of parallels, like you're saying, because it's different this time. That's like an old stock trading meme. It's different this time, and there's people that believe it, and like you said, you'll start lying. You said it nicer. You'll start embellishing. You'll start embellishing, and then the story just gets out of control at that point. Yeah. I appreciate you coming up, man. Did you have anything else?
No, nothing else.
Okay. Oops, I almost hit this over. Yeah, I'm about to probably call it for today, but I appreciate you coming up, man. It was good to talk to you. I wanted at least one person to talk to. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to oblige.
Thank you.
Yeah, great chatting with you.
All right. Thanks for the information. I'll definitely have more to look into. Thank you.
Yeah. Cheers.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Cool. That was good, man. That makes me satisfied. Like I like to just have had at least one conversation. There were also some good conversations in the chat, so that's cool as well. Not sure the next day. I don't know. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow and maybe Tuesday, just because it's easier for me Mondays and Tuesdays. So we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate you guys for stopping in, everybody that did. I know some of you left already, but you'll be able to go back and watch this video and, excuse me, see any of the topics that we discussed, because there were some pretty good topics in the chat and then the last topics that we just had. So it's just something for people to start thinking about, because you can be honest and still believe these things. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's kind of what I'm about. That's the whole point of me having these conversations, is just making sure people can be as honest as possible, not trying to change your beliefs at all. So as always, guys, it's Jay. Don't forget, throw away your feelings, open your mind, and question your beliefs. I will see you guys in the next video or live. Thank you very much. Peace.